Switching gears now, focusing on Lionel Messi at Inter Miami. I mean, this guy is a bit of a joke at this point. We knew this already through his entire career, but he's had three games now, 5 goals in his first 3 games for Inter Miami. Got another couple recently against Atlanta. And yeah, Nick, I mean, what more can we say about this guy? I mean, he's just taken these games by storm. He looks totally settled. The rest of the team looks obviously so confident playing with him. Tata Martino obviously just coming in again as a new coach and being a huge breath of fresh air. Busquets, Jordi Alba's now there as well. So, yeah, it's just fun to watch, right? I think we said it last week. We're seeing historic moments, and I can't stop watching it. I just think it's so fun. And you mentioned it earlier, right? There's almost a camp of two type of people who, some think, oh, it's just MLS, this is always going to happen. And then other people who really romanticize about the brilliance of seeing Lionel Messi in the flesh. And we're going to see it all over the US now. He's only played in Miami so far in home games, but we're about to see him tour around the US. And, it's going to be like Beckham. It's going to be like the Beatles maybe back in the day, and seeing these stadiums totally full and people just showing up to see the GOAT in action. So what are your takeaways on Messi so far?
Yeah, I remember that Beckham versus Henry game essentially a few years ago that really captured the imaginations of what MLS could be. And I mean, you're talking about
that was 14 years ago, not a few years ago.
A few times, a few.
I believe 2009, right?
Andy, I'm old. Okay, listen,
I know. Me too. Me too.
I feel old now.
Yeah, I love this 5'7" on a good day powder keg showing up with off the heels of 20 goals and 20 assists between the Champions League and League One, and probably just wondering. There were no doubts. I mean, that was the thing. There were people who wanted to say it's going to be harder for him than he thinks because of how much MLS has grown. And maybe it was harder for him than he thinks. Maybe he thought he'd score 4 a game. But he's an absolutely special player who needs to be game planned against at any level. And game planning against him, with all due respect to Liga MX and MLS, with the defensive players a step down from League One is what I'm going to say. It's not an insult. It's just a step down from League One. Good luck.
Yeah, and it's almost the argument of, he's just retiring. This is easy for him. But this is a guy who just thrives on being the star and just playing the game in such a beautiful way. And by the way, his entire career has been kicked all over the place for nearly 2 decades now. Every time he gets on the ball, he has 4 or 5 players around him. And just to keep doing it at this level and just turn up in MLS like he's always been there and always played there is pretty exceptional. But Andy, he's going to be playing in his first away game this weekend coming up, away at FC Dallas, obviously in Leagues Cup action. And, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Maybe Inter Miami win 2 trophies this year. They're in the US Open Cup finals and they're in Leagues Cup. And, they haven't had a great MLS season. We know where they are in the Eastern Conference. But all of a sudden, he turns up, his friends turn up, and Busquets and Jordi Alba, new manager, and Tata Martino. And all of a sudden, we're looking at, okay, Inter Miami might just win a couple of trophies. And, who would bet against them not to win MLS Cup if they sneak into the playoffs? So, this is going to be fun to watch. And I'm intrigued to see, how these stadiums across the USA and wherever he goes are just going to be packed to see this special guy in action.
Yeah, he feels like a cheat code in that way. And I'll make a plea to the MLS schedule makers. For the 2024 season, let's bring Lionel Messi to Kansas City, okay? I know it's not a guarantee that every Eastern Conference team plays every Western Conference team in a season. We got a natural grass field here in Kansas City. Messi will play on. I need to see Messi in my city. Just think about that, though. This guy that we've watched, like you say, Joe, for almost 20 years at the highest of high level that's ever existed could potentially come to little Kansas City in the middle of the country and play a game in a stadium that I've been in a couple hundred times. Like, that's a special memory that I think a lot of people around this country are about to get with Messi going on tour around the U.S., as you say. And that's just, that right there the exposure and the excitement and the fanfare, that does pay for the deal itself. And I know a lot of people look at it and say, well, what happens after Messi leaves? I don't know that it matters, because I think what's going to happen while Messi's here is people are going to suddenly start to pay attention to MLS a lot more. And aside from the fact that Messi scores every single game and it's 2 goals most game, there is a lot of quality in MLS, and I think that's being seen as well. Messi just happens to operate as another species. He's not a human out there on the field, and so it's going to look different. And I think the really interesting thing to watch, and if you just kind of follow Messi around the field, he doesn't do a lot of running, by the way, especially when they don't have the ball. He's just kind of sauntering out there. But the thing to watch is when he's on the ball, yeah, he's got 4 or 5 guys around him. But when he doesn't, for some reason, he finds acres of space all by himself, and he is so smart. And obviously Busquets and the connection that they have. By the way, you can't give Busquets all that time in midfield to just drop balls over the top to Messi. So teams are eventually going to figure something out a little bit, how to slow them down. But it's just the Beatles. That's the best way to put it, because the fanfare that is going to exist for every one of these games is going to be something that, all due respect to David Beckham, we've not seen here in this country before.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.